Hi everyone, welcome to Bead Sisters. I'm Kay and I'm so glad you're here. This is take 4 at least, and I've gone back to my old reliable recording on my iPhone because I have had the worst time with my camera setup. I have a camera, it takes much better video, but I wasn't real sure about the audio, so I tried fixing that, and it just, every time something is wrong, I either sound like I'm in a well, or it doesn't record, or I can't monitor what I'm recording, one thing after the other. So I thought, I'm determined to get this done. So we're just gonna go with my light and my iPhone and old reliable. Hopefully this will work. How's it going for you? Hopefully better than this, right? I have lots of stuff to show you. The last time I recorded, I think, was Vlogmas. I think that I've got an audio podcast out now. That's been almost a year since I've done one of those, but I have an audio podcast out this week, and this is gonna kind of supplement that, and I'll be able to show you the projects that I've done. Okay, the first one on my list is actually a test knit, and I'm not gonna be talking about that one until it's released, which should be in a couple of weeks, but I will tell you about that as soon as I can. That's something I finished recently. But another thing that I finished not too long ago are the picnic blanket socks. This pattern is from the Current Handmade Sock Society. That is a collection of patterns by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. You can buy the ebook now. I think it's 4 of the patterns have been released, and then there's, I think, 2 to go. They're released about once a month. Anyway, these are super cute. They're worked cuff down. You have this little ruched section here. There's 3 sections like that where you add stitches, and it gives you kind of this seersucker look in here. And then onto your contrast heel, the foot, which is just a plain vanilla kind of foot, and then your contrast toe. Guess who played Yarn Chicken and lost? This girl. That's kind of blowing out the light, but you can see I ran out of my contrast right here and went back to my main color, and I actually think it's pretty cute. So anyway, I'm actually not upset about that. I think that's really cute. The variegated yarn, I think it was a door prize somewhere, maybe Into the Wool. It is from Once Upon a Corgi. They are still in business, I think, but when I looked them up, they're going by a different name, and I don't remember what it is. But if you look at Once Upon a Corgi, you can find them. The colorway is my Sun and Stars. It's an 80-20 superwash nylon blend. I don't have yarn information for this. It was in an Advent swap, so it's just a yellow. So cute, and I'm actually kind of liking the little contrast to the contrast toe. So again, the picnic blanket socks by Curious Handmade, and it's in the Current Sock Society ebook. Next is my Christmas cast on. I like to cast on a project for me, a garment, on Christmas Day. So Christmas afternoon, I've kind of done everything and I'm ready to relax. So for the past few years, I've tried to cast on a sweater. I didn't do it last year, I don't think, like 2019. But my project is Tea with Jam and Bread, and I had falsely attributed that to the wrong designer, I think in the audio podcast, but it is actually Heidi Kiermaier. So it's an older pattern. This has been out 7, 8, 9 years, something like that, quite a while. So you started the neck, the ribbing for the neck, and there's no finishing. Once you've started that, you don't go back and pick up anything. There's some short row shaping at the back, and then onto the raglan shaping for the sleeves. You work in your main color to here, and then finish the raglan shaping. So you do part of it here and then finish it in this contrast color. And then when you split for sleeves, you pick back up with your main color. Excuse me. Work down the body back in your main color, and then another block of color, and then pockets. Excuse me. I have been talking for an hour because the other recording didn't work, and now I'm back. And then binding off at the bottom to match the neck. The only problem is it's curling. So I'm wondering, maybe blocking will help some, but possibly a little bit more ribbing there might help that. And then the sleeves, the main color to here, and then you finish with your contrast color. The yarn is Blue Sky Woolstock Worsted. This is Gravel Road. This is October Sky. And this is Cast Iron, and I am in love with this cast iron color. Really, really like it. Ooh, I think that's picking up pretty nicely. I really like that. I have a fair amount left over. If I used all three, I think I could make another one. Maybe not the same main color, but I'm really happy with it. The pattern, again, is called Tea with Jam and Bread. If you look it up on Ravelry, there are lots of projects from this pattern. And people treat it almost like a recipe, so that you'll see it in solid colors, you'll see it in multiple stripes. People use lots of different yarns to stripe through, with pockets, without pockets, long sleeves, short sleeves. It's just a really versatile pattern, and I finished it just in time for warm weather. So I'm excited about wearing this next winter. I think it's going to be super cozy. I would put it on, but it's a little warm today. It was freezing on Wednesday. It literally, I don't think, got out of the 40s on Wednesday. In May, in South Carolina. Just stop it. That's just silly. All right. I heard a thump outside. Hopefully that's okay. The dog's not barking, so it's probably all right. Okay, if you are watching the Hawthorne Cottage podcast, Kate, she is doing a knit along, the Lucky Dip Cow. And you started back in December putting 12 skeins of yarn in individual packages so that you can't see what's in it. Like mine are in brown bags. And then you pull one out at the beginning of each month, so it's kind of a surprise to you. And then you make something. Well, I wanted to make sure I had at least one quick win with each one. So I found a pattern, the Anu Baby Hat, ANU. It's in a book, and I cannot find it for individual purchase anywhere. I can't even find the book in digital form. I think you actually have to buy a physical copy of the book. The book is called Sock Yarn Studio. It is by Carol Solkowski. I'm not sure if she wrote all of the patterns, but she was the editor at least, and I think wrote at least some of them, if not all of them. But you hold fingering weight double, and it's got a fairly good bit of ribbing here, and then straight to the crown shaping. And I just love this in the variegated held double. That's just a riot of color. I would tell you the yarn if I could remember. Might be hedgehog fiber, but anyway. So that's one. This is another one that's a tonal. Look at the swirl on that. And again, fingering held double. DK would probably work pretty well too. So this one kind of striped, even holding it double. So I think that one's super cute and squishy. The last one is yarn from Hypnotic Yarn, the Yarnable subscription box. I've been getting, I think it's once a quarter, which I'm kind of grandfathered in because I started it about a year and a half ago. Now I don't think the once a quarter option is available. It's maybe every other month is the least you can do, but they let me keep the once a quarter subscription. I'm really grateful. They have been extremely reliable. They're shipped right when they say they are, and they don't charge until it's time for the next one, so you're not having to give them money before you know what's going to happen. They charge right before they send it and give you the option of opting out. So this is one of theirs. I think it's called Beach Ball. Oh, cuckoo clock. And these colors are just a hoot. Now, the reason I'm showing you this one last is because the other thing I've done with the yarn, in addition to baby hats, is a pattern that I am very late to. Rose City Rollers. This one came out a few years ago. It's a really easy sock pattern. It's free. You cast on whatever your size number of stitches and just start knitting. There's no cuff or anything, no like ribbed cuff. It's meant to roll. Rose City Rollers, right? And then straight into the heel flap and gusset, and head on down the foot. Look at that pulling. Oh my goodness. I love it. So this one, and I'll show you this one too, because the pulling is a little bit different. Not dramatically, but this is single strand for socks. This is held double for the hat. Isn't that cool? I love these. So I think that's a good use of maybe some crazy variegated, some baby hats like this, something that holds it double. And then the Rose City Rollers are really fun too. And I think that works pretty well even for crazy pulling yarns, because it's a simple pattern. It lets the yarn shine, and if the pulling bothers you, it's still just going inside your shoe. So I like these Rose City Rollers and the Anu baby hat. The next one actually started last fall. I finished it before the end of cold weather. This is the Tidings shawl, another Helen Stewart pattern. I'm a complete sucker for her ebooks. This is from KnitVent 2020. She releases about 5 or 6 patterns for the Advent season. She releases those, I think, once a week. And the idea is that they are either fairly small or just fairly quick patterns that you could get done either for yourself or as a gift. So this one's all about the texture. It's this beautiful knot stitch. Can you see that? Maybe if I fold it over, it'll show up a little better. You have, I think I'll try to do it backwards. So if you have 3 stitches on your needle, you would take the one furthest away and lift it over the other 2 and off, and then knit, yarn over, knit for those. And that's what gives you this stitch. And then the rest, it's just all about the texture in this. There's this rib section. This section should have been bigger, but I ran out of this. So I just went on down to the next one. And then another rib section in a 3rd color. Although if you did it all in the same color, the texture would still be just stunningly beautiful. And then you go back to this color for a garter edge. So anyway, I'll tell you about the yarn now. I got it on a trip to Alabama for a family wedding last fall. We went to the town of Guntersville, and there was a yarn shop there. It's primarily embroidery, I would say, but they had some yarn, mostly baby yarn, but not tons. But they had this one that I wasn't familiar with called Carlton Merino Supreme. It's 100% superwash, is it superwash? No, yeah, 100% superwash merino. They didn't have a ton of it, but I liked these colors together, so I bought what they had. They don't have color names as far as I can tell, just numbers on the package. So I was trying to come up with good ways to describe them. So I'd say this is kind of an oatmeal color, this one right here. We'll call this one taupe, this pale cream, and then this sort of taupe color right here. And then this one, this green brown. And I was thinking foresty and earthy, those kinds of colors. But I thought I need something a little bit better, especially for the audio podcast. And so sometimes I will look something up. I will look up the color for some ideas, maybe based on paint colors or fabric colors or even nature colors, things that people use to describe color. So I put in dark green brown. And I found a little, it was like a little square, just straight up a square of color that came up in images. And I thought, oh, that's really close. Let me click and see what that is. It said House Beautiful. I went, awesome, that's gonna be a paint color with the perfect name for this color. I clicked on it, it was an article. The world's ugliest color. This is the color. And it's like officially researched, the world's ugliest color. The point of researching this was to find the most unappealing color in the world. It's to be used for cigarette packaging. I think it was Australia primarily, but to use it for cigarette packaging and warnings and that kind of stuff to make cigarette packages as unappealing as possible. This is the color they picked. It was described in various words, including, didn't write them down, tar, dirty, sewage, and death. So y'all, this is my shawl in the world's ugliest color, and I shall wear it with pride. I like it, I don't care what they say. So now you know. If anybody says, what's the world's ugliest color? Now you know. It's the color of Kay's shawl. If anybody asks, it's the color of Kay's shawl. The pattern, however, stands. It's excellent. The Tidings shawl. I have two more to tell you about. This is my Advent project. It is the Winter Wonder Wrap by Sally Jane Cameron. It is available on Ravelry. I don't think I found this one available anywhere else. I've got show notes done for the audio podcast, so if you want to check podcast notes, any of these that are available on both Ravelry and another platform, if I could find it, I've linked to both. I know some people are not on Ravelry, and I wanted you to have a link to it if I could find it. So the way this one works, there is obviously a main color between each section, but there are 6 stitch patterns involved, and you work them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you reverse. So you do 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That would give you 24 sections with the little garter section in between. And it even has a little bit of fun stuff going on. You can tell it's got some increases and decreases, so it forms this little flower snowflake kind of thing in there. This, you can tell, is quite long, and I only did 18 sections. You can adjust how large you make these sections. You can actually make the whole thing wider with narrower individual texture sections. So we'll talk just a little bit about what the sections are. First is this star stitch. There is this with just a little bit of pearls for some texture. This one, it's a little harder to see in this crazy yarn, but it's got some slip stitches, I think, or maybe crossed stitches. And then there's this one with some yarn overs. This one's harder to see, I think. There's this one, which is like a snowflakey kind of thing. Can you see it that way? How about if I hold it up to the light? Can you see a little bit in there? So you've got this little flower snowflake kind of thing in here. And then I think we're back to stars. I'm looking for the, okay, surely one of these has a good one that we can, the pattern's not the problem, it just happened to come up when it was crazy variegated, but I don't know if you can see that very well. But it's a smocked stitch, so you have stitches wrapped around this way. Anyway, I'm really pleased with it. It's knit on the bias, you can kind of tell. This is a paid pattern available on Ravelry. As I said, she may have it available somewhere else, but I couldn't find it. I know she has some patterns available on other platforms, but it's similar to the Advent wrap I did a few years ago by B. Devin Steiner. That one is on Ravelry and it is free, and it's a similar style, but that one has the color sections are all the same stitch pattern, and it is not knit on the bias. So this one has a little bit more detail going on with the various stitch patterns plus the pattern in the garter contrast sections. But both gorgeous, and this one nicely written pattern, and so if you want something a little more interesting, this is a really good one. So anyway, the Winter Wonder Wrap by Sally Jane Cameron. Ooh, sorry, I shouldn't have done it, made it shake. All right, one more to tell you about. I saved this one for last. It's what I'm wearing. This is Piper's Journey. It's by Paula Emmons Feasley. Paula hosted the Knitting Pipeline podcast as well as knitting retreats. Paula was diagnosed with ovarian cancer about 2 years ago, and she died this past March, I think it was. So right around that time, when we knew that her time was short, people who either knew her or knew of her, I'm kind of in between. I had been to a couple of her Georgia Pipeline retreats, so I had met her, but was certainly not as close to her as a lot of other people. But a lot of us, whether we knew her as I did, whether they were close friends, whether they only knew her from listening to her podcast, a lot of people cast on this pattern in particular, but several of her others. And we were working on it right around the time that she passed away. And it was very sweet and comforting. I appreciated that. This pattern, it was originally designed for Quince & Co. wool, and I've got one made in that. But this is in the Fiber Co.'s Canopy Fingering, which is 50% alpaca, 30% wool, 20% viscose. It's very drapey, and I actually really like that. I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first, but I'm really pleased with it. You work back and forth this way, increasing quickly because it forms this crescent shape. And then, garter stitch, did I say that in here? Very simple. When you get the body of the shawl done, you cast on some extra stitches on the end, and you bind off by working this lace pattern back and forth. So a knitted bind off. You work, I think I've got it upside down, but you work across, picking up a stitch, knitting it together from the body with your border, and then back. So each time you go back toward the body of the shawl, you bind it off, or, knit it together with your border stitches. So you work your way across this way. What is really nice about that, if you're not a real comfortable lace knitter, is that you're only working over the lace pattern over a small number of stitches, so it's pretty easy to catch anytime you get off. It's pretty easy to see that quickly. So really brilliant pattern and just beautiful. And again, it's called Piper's Journey. Paula actually played bagpipes. So this one's called Piper's Journey, and it's available on Ravelry. It's possible it's available at, glasses are falling, at Quince & Co. as well. Okay, current projects. I have a couple. I have Derecho. This is by Allison Green. It is in Barocco Remix Light. This is the yarn. It is, glasses please, 30% nylon, 27% cotton, 24% acrylic, 10% silk, 9% linen. You can see it, it's kind of blowing out in the light. In just a natural kind of cream. I don't particularly like knitting with this because it has no elasticity to it, but I think I'm really gonna like the finished project because, first of all, the structure of the knitting gives it some stretch, but I think it'll be a really nice summer top. So you start here with the neck, some short row shaping, and then you actually shape this yoke area with yarn overs. And there's a little bit of garter round business going on to give it a little interest. Then split for sleeves, and you work down, it's about 14 or 15 inches. And I'm getting close, so it's 8. Yeah, I'm probably at about 13, something like that. There's a little bit of waist shapings, but nothing complicated. And then at the hem, it's not a true split hem, but you split the front and the back. You work some shaping on the back and I think some shaping on the front, and then you join them back together so you get a little bit of a curved shape to the bottom of it. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that looks. But anyway, Derecho, did I say, by Allison Green? It is available through Barocco. I don't know if you can get it through Ravelry or not, maybe, but it's definitely available through Barocco. So yeah, Derecho top, I'm looking forward to that. It'll have short sleeves. I will have to do a little bit of going back, picking up, and working on the sleeves, but they're not long sleeves. So I'm excited about that. I'm hoping to get that done pretty soon because I really want to be able to wear it this summer. The other thing I'm working on is the Sophie shawl. This was in our goodie bag at Into the Wool. This is going to be a fairly large shawl. It's designed for a retreat by Danielle Wynn. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce her last name now. She is Lanois on Ravelry. And so you start with this stockinette section and simple increases, and this was actually one of the options. There's a make one left and right, which is what's in the picture, or you can do yarn overs, which is actually one of the suggestions in the pattern. So stockinette for a while, and then this textured section, if you can see it a little bit, it forms diamonds, but it's just knits and purls. After this will be a primarily garter section, and then a knitted on border, kind of like with the Piper's Journey, but it's a fairly simple one. It doesn't have a lace pattern in it. The yarn is from Unwind Yarn. It's a BFL. Ramble BFL sock in Friends Fun and Foliage. It has 657 yards and 150 grams. And the pattern says, check your gauge because it's designed to use up all of it. So here we go, y'all. This is going to be a really large shawl. But I think I'm going to like it. I really do enjoy my bigger shawls. That actually suits me pretty well. It just takes longer to finish, but I think I'm going to really, really like the finished product. Okay, let's move on to the basket of shame. It's a basket next to my bed with projects that have been sitting for a while. I've actually, as I said, finished off some stuff, but then there's this. I got this bag from Christine of Rainstorm Studios. You see that? At Into the Wool. It says, where you been? This project won't make itself. And I love this sheep. So what I've got in here is a project that I started last spring. I finished sock 1. It's the Luminary socks, another Helen Stewart from last year's Sock Society. It's got this star stitch, and then it's kind of I think it's a twisted stitch thing here. Plain on the back, heel flap and gusset, and a twisted rib cuff. Little bit of stuff going on here, but nothing terribly complicated. So you see, sock 1 is done. Sock 2 is cast on. It's in my Twist Fiber Studio needle minder, and this is all I have done. This little bit of the cuff. I'm not even through the cuff. I keep bumping that, I'm sorry. I need to get on it because I actually really do like it, and the yarn is beautiful. It's some that I dyed, but I will never be able to do again. It was basically a yarn mop where I had been doing a bunch of dyeing one day, and there was some dye left in the pot, so I threw in a skein and just let it sit till it soaked it all up, and I ended up with that beautiful purple. But anyway, from the basket of shame, and I do need to finish this. There's actually only one more thing in there. And it's Goldfish Memory from Casapanca. You can't really see it very well, it's not a very good picture. I just didn't print it very well. And the idea is the stitch pattern changes regularly so that it keeps your interest. The irony is not lost on me. It's knit on the bias. And you can see, I mean, I've done some. A lot, but some. It's in 3 colors. So you start with some slip stitches, I think, and striping. And then this really cool slip stitch section here. I think there's some more slip stitches in there. It's kind of hard to see within that crazy variegated. Then there's some striping. Some garter stitch here and some striping. The yarn is from Kristen's Fiber Studio. It is from the 2019 SAF. In Wish You Were Here, which is this one, Amsterdam and Paris are the names of the colors. And I can't remember which one of these is which. This is Wish You Were Here. And the bag matches. My Jan Smiley bag matches. I always tell my husband, if you just go over there and get some stuff from Jan and Kristen, I will be happy. So this is the bag. So I want to get this done. It's not that I hated it. I just set it aside and didn't finish. So those are my 4 current projects on the needles. I have plans for one other project specifically. I don't remember the name of it, but it's another Helen Stewart pattern. It's a shawl pattern. And the yarn I'm using actually specifically dyed for me to use, along with somebody else who contacted me and asked me for a skein. This is called Rabbit Hole. I dyed some for Into the Wool last fall, and then had a little bit, so I sent some to Kate of Hawthorne Cottage. She's the one that's doing the Lucky Dip Cow using a skein of sock yarn. Anyway, she posted a picture of using a skein that I sent her, and I think that's where they found it, but somebody contacted me and said, could you please, if you have some, could I please get a skein? And I didn't have any, but I wanted to dye some for me to use, so I dyed a total of 6 skeins, and I have 2 extra. So if you're interested, just send me an email, beadsisters@gmail.com. My Etsy shop is on vacation, and it may stay that way. I really like Etsy, but it has, the fees have just kind of run me off. I'm hoping to get a separate website up in the not too distant future, but in the meantime, if you want to get in touch with me about anything, feel free to do that through the Bead Sisters Gmail address. One more thing, and then we're out of here. I just yesterday got a copy of Lina Magazine. It's the summer 2021. And I'll show you the one that so far has particularly got my attention. I had it marked a while ago, and then I took my marker out. Where'd it go? I think it's the first. I thought it was. Of course, now I can't find it. Yeah, here it is. I say that. Yeah, Trelissa, is that right? Look at this. It's really, it's a like cropped, short, potentially cropped sleeves and body. Like I mean, they have very different body types, and it's fantastic on both of them. It's really pretty. I just love this picture. Look at her. I love that. There's another one over here that shows the neck detail a little bit better. You see that? I think this is really pretty. Look at that color work down there. Oh, so pretty. Hold that one so you can see her. I really love the way these fit. It looks like it would be pretty comfortable over even a dress, high-waisted skirt or something like that. I'm not quite sure how I feel about wearing a crop sweater, but it looks so good on both of them. It really makes me want to try it. So that might be one I'll try. There's some others in here that are really beautiful, and maybe I will give it a chance. Is this one called Visiting? I'm not sure. Same models, actually. I think that's a pretty pullover. Is this? No, that's not the same one. No, maybe it is. Maybe it's available as cardigan or pullover. Not sure. Or maybe that's something totally different. But anyway, I'm really liking looking at the sweaters in here, and I will let you know if I end up making something from that. All right, everybody, hopefully the 5th time's the charm. We'll see. I will try to get this edited and out in the next couple of days, and hopefully one day soon I can get my camera issues worked out, because my other camera gives me a much better video quality, but video quality and sound quality both matter, so hopefully I can get that, as I said, get that going pretty quick. All right, everybody, take care, and we will chat again soon.
Do you want to go for a walk? Is that a yes? Yes? Okay, let's go for a walk.